you've heard it right. Today we are going to discuss some slang words which we use very often in our daily life when speaking with friends or partners. But in this video, I will teach you how to replace them with more sophisticated, more classy, and more elegant synonyms. Because I know for a fact that you have those words in your vocabulary. You just don't know how, when, and where to use them. So without any further ado, let us begin. As I was saying, today we will be upgrading 4 of those slang words. And no, they are not cuss words. They're very common words that everybody knows, but perhaps some of the replacements are a little bit fancy and sophisticated. So we'll start with the first one, which is cool. Whenever you hear something fascinating, whenever you see something incredible, what do you say? It's cool. Well, instead of using this word, I would suggest you to use the word fascinating. Fascinating. A lot of my students tell me, "But sir, this sounds so formal." It does sound formal if you use it in an informal context. For example, you went to the club last night and your friend asked, "How was it? What did you do?" And you simply reply, "It was fascinating." Of course. This sounds a little bit weird, a little bit off. However, if you use it in the appropriate way, nobody will ever comment on it. For example, you were reading a book. It was such a great story, you couldn't put it down. And then your friend comes up to you and asks, "Hey, what did you do over the weekend?" You could reply, "Oh, I was reading this amazing book. It was so fascinating. Now this sounds perfect." The word fascinating means extremely interesting, juicy. If you're talking about your weekend plans or what you've been doing in your spare time, of course it has to be interesting. Therefore, it's perfect to use the word fascinating. Next, another word that we use a lot when speaking English is get. Get. You get money, you get information, you get angry, you get a job, you get a girlfriend, you get it. We use this word all the time. However, in order to elevate your level of spoken English, I would suggest you to use the word acquire. Acquire or obtain. These two words are almost synonyms, but get is still a little bit more common than obtain. So if you want to be a little bit more sophisticated, try using obtain. Now, of course, when speaking with friends, you can still use the word get. This sounds absolutely fine. However, if you're talking to your boss or your teacher, or someone more senior than you, you should definitely use more elegant words. For example, "I'm gonna get a promotion." Instead, you could say, "I'm gonna acquire a promotion." Or instead of saying, "Hey, where can I get some information?" say, "Where can I obtain some information?" As I said before, these words are not 100% synonyms. They mean almost the same thing, but there is a slight difference. To get means to acquire something quickly, and usually by chance. For example, I didn't plan to meet her at the coffee shop, but I happened to get her number from a mutual friend. On the other hand, to acquire something means to obtain something after a period of time, through effort, through hard work. For example, learning a language. You don't just get fluent in a language.
No.
You have to work for it. You have to study for it. You have to practice it. That's how you acquire fluency in a language. Moving on to the next word. Big. Big. Everything is big. A car is big. A house is big. A city is big. A pizza is big. A problem is big. We use this word so frequently. However, if you want to express yourself in a more sophisticated manner, I would suggest you to use the words significant or considerable. Significant. A lot of my students ask me, "But sir, These are not synonyms of the word big. Well, you're right. The word big refers to size, length, height, width, whereas the words significant and considerable refer to importance. However, if you use these words correctly, nobody will ever understand that they have nothing to do with the original word. For example, you're talking about a problem. Your friend asks, "Hey, what's up?" And you reply, "Oh, I have a big problem." Well, instead of saying big, you could say significant. My significant problem is that I have no money.
Of course.
This sounds ridiculous. Nobody will take you seriously. But if you're talking to a close friend, it's totally fine to use this kind of language. Now, if you're talking to your boss, your teacher, or someone else more senior than you should definitely avoid using this word. Instead, you could say, "I have a considerable problem. I have a considerable amount of work to do." Or if you're referring to a project, a task, a job, you could say, "This is a very significant task. This is a significant project." As I said before, these words have nothing to do with the original word. But if you use them in the correct context, no one will ever notice. And finally, the last word that we use all the time when speaking English is the word real. Real. A lot of times we add the word real before adjectives to emphasize what we're saying. For example, he's a real nice guy. It's a real small place. It's a real good idea. Real funny. Real cool. Real big. We use this word so often. However, if you want to upgrade your level of spoken English, I would suggest you to avoid using the word real. Instead, just use the adjective by itself. For example, instead of saying he's a real nice guy, just say he's a nice guy. If you're talking about your best friend, you could say he's a really nice guy. And when you're talking about a stranger, you could just say, "He's a nice guy." If you use it in the wrong context, it doesn't sound natural at all. Now, what about the sentence, "It's a real small place"? Once again, if you want to sound more sophisticated, avoid using the word real. Just say it's a small place. It doesn't make sense to say that something is a real small place. Real big. Once again, it's better to avoid using this word. Instead, just say it's a big place. Unless you're talking about your own body, it's totally fine to say that you have a real big belly. Real funny. I also do unrecommend you to use this word, because the word funny, by itself, is already an adjective. Therefore, if you add the word real in front of it, it doesn't sound quite right. It's better to say this movie is funny. Instead of saying, "This is a real good idea," you could say, "This is a great idea." Or "This is a wonderful idea." And finally, the word real cool. Again, if you want to sound more sophisticated, just say it's cool. There's no need to add the word real in front of it. Now let's have a look at some real dialogues using these words. Dialogue No. 1. Person A. How was your weekend? Person B. Oh, I stayed at home and read a book. It was so fascinating. Dialogue No. 2. Person A. Where are you going tomorrow? Person B. I'm going to acquire a new skill. Dialogue No. 3. Person A. What did you do at the club last night? Person B. Oh, nothing much. It was a very significant night. No. 4. Person A. What's your favorite pizza topping? Person B. I like the real cheese. Person A. Huh. I like the cheese topping, too. And dialogue number 5. Person A: how was the party last night? Person B: it was cool. So as you can see, using these sophisticated synonyms instead of slang words elevates your level of spoken English. However, it's important to use them in the appropriate context. Otherwise, you will sound ridiculous and people won't take you seriously. And now it's time for you to take action. Download the PDF with all the material that we covered today and start using these words in your own sentences. And remember, if you truly want to become fluent in English, faster and learn English step by step, you must take consistent action. And as always, it's been an absolute pleasure. Over and out.